Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're talking about An Evolutionary Myth by Bo-Young Kim. I have no content warnings or any big prefaces at the beginning, so let's go ahead and let's hop into our passage as usual. So, from the story. From my early childhood, my mother constantly repeated to me the tale of one woodcutter. This woodcutter was married to a woman from a certain winged race whom he met by chance at the shore of a lake. But after his wife flew away into the sky, he went up to the roof and wept, and could neither eat nor sleep. His body diminished until it was tiny, and his legs became as thin as chopsticks, while the bottoms of his feet bent and curved. His curved claws sprouted from his toes like the hooks that hold up the bar of a clothes rack. His fingers atrophied and then disappeared, while white feathers sprouted all over his body. A scarlet comb grew upon his head, and from his throat came the sound of a heartbroken bird, instead of the sound of a man. His longing had transformed his appearance into that of a rooster, but those wings were useless. He could not fly to where his wife had fled. So, An Evolutionary Myth by Bo-Young Kim is set in a world where humans and other life forms evolve within an individual lifespan, based on use and disuse, seemingly, without the passing of traits, a sort of kind of natural selection and rebirth relegated to one's lifespan. While it's suggested that one can will certain features to evolve, people just as easily transform into the opposite of what they desire. The plot follows a young prince as he's forced to flee after his uncle takes the throne. The prince transforms throughout the story in pieces, traits layering on top of one another. He first has indigo skin and yellow feline eyes from sneaking out at night. After entering the forest, he then takes to walking on all fours, growing antlers in the snout, and he eventually develops scales. After hibernating, he's discovered by his now pig-like uncle, presumably because, he doesn't do anything because he's in charge. He's this king-type figure who lets everyone do everything for him, right? During this, he jumps off a cliff, lays dormant in the water, and grows more serpentine and aquatic. The prince, not the uncle. Later, he's discovered by a young woman and her village who begin to offer items to him. He rejects this worship and goes dormant. He is eventually awoken by his uncle's arrival at the village, and the prince, having grown larger and larger while he was dormant, emerges and rises into the sky in the form of a dragon, bending the rain to his will. So my first big note for the story is that it very much fits with kind of the typical hero's journey, right? That archetypal myth where we start off with, the human world as this ordinary world. The world's kind of fractured in some way, particularly with a drought, it seems. And we have this extraordinary world, the wild, that he heads off into. You have this call to adventure, that he initially refuses, where his uncle appears and the servant, forces him to flee. He has various mentors and helpers, tiger, turtle, and the nine-tailed woman somewhat. He has his ordeal in Abyss in the lake and river. He discards his old self. He forgets that he was a prince. Now he's fully a water snake by the end of the story. He has his return where he emerges from the water as a dragon, and he returns with the elixir where he solves the drought, right? Very much in line with that hero's journey idea. According to the prince's mother, maintaining one's humanity is simply a matter of will, and that not transforming is virtuous. However, this transformation and monstrousness depends on what is made of it. At one point in the story, we're told that, quote, nature presents us with monstrosities like this because it cannot communicate its earnest mind with words, which is to renew itself by filling the king with fear and regret. But if the king cultivates his virtue, this unfortunate omen can be transformed into a lucky one, unquote. Likewise, it seems that virtue may be the key to ending the drought. Quote again, how could the sky not turn dry when the hearts of the people are so parched? True is when the people are fatigued that the sky ought to be kindest to them, but nature's laws don't work that way, unquote. One's own flesh and the natural world are an arbitrary division in this tale. They're interlocked and the same. While it gives nothing freely, this unified flesh-nature essence, whatever you want to call it, seems to respond positively when it's treated positively. After all, the Samu implies that praying for rain may have some effect. At the same time, one becomes what one becomes at the whims and urges of this essence, largely beyond the comprehension or intentions of humanity. And so, one of the big questions of this story is, what does the story say about human will and longing? As always, cite the text and any other sources to support your answer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.